So our next speaker is Alexander Tietz-Latza. It is an honor to have him here. He came from Berlin. Cologne, from Germany. So we are very happy to have him here. He specialized in law and works now in German Parliament, Bundestag. He is the founder of Gesellschaft for Gesundes Altern und Prävention. He's active in the field of longevity and is one of the first members of longevity organization HILS. So today he will speak about political dimensions of life extension. So I'm really happy to announce him as a speaker and looking forward to his speech.
Thank you for having me. Martin, thanks a lot. It's the only time I've seen someone not German being more punctual and up to the time than a German. But yeah, I know I will speed up my presentation a little bit, but try to hopefully mention all the important stuff. So first of all, exactly 5 years ago, I had the honor to attend a workshop, actually to give a workshop here on healthy life extension by Senolytics, and it was the first time I met Martin, and let me congratulate you because it's really amazing to see how much your organization has evolved since then, and great that you put up this this conference. So, Martin said everything right, but I have to, of course, say that here this is my voluntary work. My paid work is in the German Parliament, but I don't speak for the German government or even the Parliament. I just speak here on my private interest, let's say, my private ideas. So, also, although I studied law, international law with international relations, it's not legal advice. Although I hope we can do some legal stuff, it's not a legal advice at this point. So it's funny that Melissa actually, I think it was Lincoln, she put up a citation by Lincoln. This is actually Carter, and we already heard a little bit about the right to health and saying, oh, there should be a right to health or maybe to health span. It's actually already there, and it's there since 1948. I just go quickly into the historical context. It has already been part of that Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It then has been more defined, let's say enriched, by the International Convention on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights in 1966. And that's basically how it started. So we could argue that, of course, it's always the case with human rights, that they are subject to cultural relativism and a lot of other barriers. But technically, since then, we already have the right to health. So, as it's tricky with human rights, it doesn't mean you have the right to be healthy, but it means really a lot. I'm not going to read all that because we are speeding up a bit, but please, basically, it's an inclusive right, which means it affects a lot of things, a lot of regulations, a lot of everything, so which evolve from there. Of course, you have to see it in a relation to other human rights and to other rights and constraints and everything, but to make it short, it will say it's the cornerstone of a lot. So this is basically how then it evolved. And as it was difficult to truly define what is health, what is well-being, and all that, so we now more or less agree that it's the highest attainable standard of physical and mental health. That being said, in practice, it often still means that you have a curative medicine, and let's say in the Western world, at least the system is quite good. But really, I would say the states feel no obligation to protect the citizens from, to prevent the citizens from old age or evolving disease. So prevention really is not, let's say, followed up so much as I think it should be. So, and this is already like policy integration, like health and all policies and longevity advocacy. What you see here is already what is the best case already. Yeah. So if some countries have actually adopted this health and all policies, meaning whatever the new law they're passing, whatever they do, they would think of health first. So this is already this is already good examples. I mean, Sweden is doing this since a few years, and I think it's really doing great. But still, what I'm arguing is that we need to extend this right to longevity, which means to health span, basically, at least in my definition of longevity. And I argue it's an emerging right, because now a lot of rights mean something else. They mean more than they meant 20 years ago, because science is evolving, a lot of things are evolving. So I argue, of course, now we should have a much more right on prevention and on health span. The problem with human rights is that, as I said, they're often subject to cultural relativism and other barriers, is that we need to kind of influence what is the new normal. Yeah, I mean, that was mentioned before. We don't want normal, but we want, what was it? We want not perfection, but optimization. So we want to go for the optimal. And I argue, actually, this is already what we could achieve. And as we can achieve it, it should become the new normal. I go faster. What you see here is, for me, a very interesting thing, is that you say you die of old age, we die of climate change. I find it very interesting that dying of climate change is horrible, dying of old age is fine. Yeah, so there you see that clearly people don't feel that it's normal to die of climate change, but that people feel it's very okay to die of old age. So I think there we need to focus our efforts on, and as I want to take the law approach to that, I would like to give an example of what happened in Germany. In Germany, the government got sued because they don't do enough on climate change, and actually they won. So they won against the government, and now this, if you read I just quickly read it, the right to imperial freedom is the right to ward off these predatory efforts, future blah, 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 meaning intertemporal security of freedom is damaged by not the government acting enough now. And that's very, I mean, if you would have said this to a lawyer 10 years ago, they would say you're crazy. So basically saying you're limiting the freedom of future generations by not acting enough, people would say no one would agree with this. But I argue that actually courts can be much more avant-garde than you think. And I would say that if enough people argue and actually try these cases and really make the point that their freedom is limited, and I would say aging and diseases are really limiting your freedom to a lot, I would make the case that some people, at least in some countries, you will be successful in forcing their government by a legal way to do more. I'm not saying this should be the only. Of course, we need the scientists, we need the advocacy on the political level, and I'm a politician myself, so please, politics influences a lot. If you look at Corona, you see in the end the decision is made not by the scientists, they are helping everything, but it's made by the politicians. So what I'm arguing, what I want us to do is to form coalitions, because in theory, all the health people, they know what to do. Yeah, they have been knowing this for the last 30 years. Still, if you look at healthcare in general, if you look at nursing, yeah, it's the healthcare people, the health people itself cannot achieve enough on their own. So I'm arguing that we really need to form a coalition across a lot of interest groups, a lot of professions to basically get us faster on campaigning for and reaching to do the state accepting the obligation to do more for healthy longevity and health span. Yeah, that was already it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alex. Because we're limited on time, because our next speaker is on the clock, So, but we luckily have some more time for questions. So I wish everyone to invite everyone for some questions about politics and longevity, because it's a really important topic to also move politically in these directions. So please.
Thank you, Alexander, for your talk. As a politician, how is your perspective to the working time? See, my mom passed away this summer. She worked 36 years, and she was fully. I mean, she worked for the full time, but the period of her seniority, I would say, so being retired was even longer than she was working. I'm working 37 years now, and I have to fulfill 3 more years to get old and working enough. But I feel that I have to work even longer. What is your perspective as a politician, how to tackle this issue? Because people want to go retired, but some people, they would like to work. And that's longevity, working conditions.
So, as a politician, I would never say you should work longer, because that then will be the end of your political career. But I mean, I had the pleasure to, at that time, the oldest woman of the world, having interviewed with Emma Morano, and basically said, oh, she had been working all her life, but actually stopped 50 years ago. So she had 50 years on pension, basically. And I would say, well, you need to make the systems more flexible. I mean, myself, I would hate to, I mean, I think you need some sense of belonging, and I would like to continue working, but I understand that some people cannot do that, and maybe physically, and also don't want to do that, which is also fine. So I think we need a bit more flexible system on that. But in general, I think it's very good to find systems or find a way to continue working a little bit. I mean, my grandmother's 104 now. She still does her tax, what do you say, a tax declaration or something like so. And she never stopped. And I think that was part of her surviving. Yeah.
Right, exactly. That's what helps you survive. And that's the longevity in work. I mean, practice.
May I? Yeah. You were talking about that health, life or health span should be a kind of a human right. How you are going to achieve this? I mean, to get this into the public, to get into the discussion, to get into the system.
I mean, hopefully with your help. So hopefully with your help, and I'm actually arguing that health span, healthy longevity is already there in the right to health. I'm actually arguing the right to health nowadays should also be the right to longevity, because now we have the options. Yeah, I mean we have the tools to do that. I mean, 50 years ago I understand that was not included, but now I would say if more and more people say this is what we think is included, it will be included, because normality and what you think is normal really influences a lot with human rights. Of course, human rights, it's difficult to then make always a human rights case. You have to go through your national systems and everything, but I argue that you can do that, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We have time for another question. If anyone has a question from the Zoom or from live. Okay, then I have one question.
Okay.
So, Alex, how are trends going in European Union? Are you optimistic about this, or is it going too slowly, or how is it?
You mean health in the European Union, or healthcare?
Yes, what you advocate for longevity and...
to be honest, I was so, in a way, if I thought, of course, Corona was horrible, or COVID-19 was horrible, but when I thought one good thing of that was that the European Union saw a need to have more efforts on health, because health is not a. It's a national. I will try not to be so. So basically, all the member states are more or less responsible for health, and it's not like a European Union thing. But in COVID-19, you could see that diseases, I mean pandemics, they don't stop at borders. So there are two new agencies from the European Union who focus on health. I think that's great, but as I see the Commission now, I think, unfortunately, the more acute problems which we are faced by now, I mean, wars and everything, they take away, in a way, they take a little bit away of these efforts, because the Commission or a lot of politicians don't feel that this is the priority at the moment. So I'm mixed feelings. So I would say it's better than 10 years ago, but worse than 2 years ago.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. And we will hear more about you in the round table.
Thank you.